Hi, welcome to this week's Fireside Chat. It's good to be with you, connected digitally through this recording that you've obviously found on our YouTube channel. I want to say an enormous thank you to Judy Zarubik. I know I usually do this, but I don't think a lot of people realize how important it is to have someone else on the other end of this recording, making sure that the technology works well and smoothly. It is an enormous headache that I don't have to worry about, and I know that many of my colleagues do. That being said, I was sad this summer because I was unable to enjoy any time in Algonquin Park, where I have a once a summer canoe trip. And now that the summer is over, I hope that next summer I'll be able to enjoy paddling in my favorite place in the world. Does anyone know of a good place to get an inexpensive canoe? To console myself, I think I'll just dive into a yummy, gooey pizza. Because of the stress we feel these days, our mental roadmap has radically changed during the pandemic. Even still, we try to follow safety protocols. After all, protecting one another is an important commitment to the well-being of our society. For those of us who sometimes forget our masks before entering a store, here's a video from This Hour Has 22 Minutes that strikes home for me, tickling my funny bone.
Oh, I forgot my mask.
We know you have a lot to remember these days. But please remember that you need a mask in public spaces.
Forgot my mask.
I forgot my mask.
Forgot my mask.
Don't forget your mask. And if you see someone who did, don't forget to look all judgy, but with your eyes.
Really?
I was listening to a call-in show on CBC Radio last week, and the guest on the show was from the Dalai Lama School of Public Health and one of the co-chairs of the pandemic health team for the provincial government. The callers phoning in were trying to find out the facts behind the choices made about restrictions for citizens across Ontario. In every instance, it was evident that what callers felt the advice from health authorities was that it was inconsistent, likely arising out of the complexity of dealing with our ever-evolving scientific understanding of this virus that we've only known for less than a year. It's all rather confusing, it seems. If a composer was to write music to reflect our experience of the year 2020, I can imagine it might look like this. It looks just as confusing as the radio show callers found. Don't worry, because no musician can read this music either. Still, humor is in the fine print. While our perceptions are clouded by our confusion, too many of us hide how we are really feeling. Someone might send you a text like this. However, what that person hasn't shared might be more like this. I haven't texted you back because I've been anxious and depressed, but I don't want to burden you with my feelings and my needs. You have enough of your own stuff to deal with, I imagine. Then the next line of their message appears. It seems like a friendly apology, but they might have added this. I am so drained these days that I can't even collect the energy for the most menial of tasks, like texting you back or brushing my teeth or washing the single dish in the sink. Without knowing what was really going on with your friend, the next line appears. What a hope-filled observation this is, and it seems to lift your own spirits. Yet There is much more your friend wanted to tell you. Yesterday, I fought off a panic attack while I was driving. I had to pull over because my vision was blurred. I focused on how blue the sky was. I'm so over my head with emotion that I haven't washed my hair in 3 days. I just want to sleep all the time. But if I told you, you would want to uncover the reason behind all of this. I love you, but there is no tangible reason you would accept as valid. Then the final line of the message appears. You make a mental note to call your friend and set up a time to meet while physically distanced. Then you move on to other things in your life. We all find ourselves missing much of what is going on with our friends and with our neighbors. In fact, many of us are putting on a brave face, just like this texting friend was. We want order and certainty in our lives. We want predictability and comfortable familiarity. We want the calm and the peace, similar to what the beginning of this video offers us. And that's often how we feel during this pandemic. Yes, this video by the two cellists featuring the song Thunderstruck by the Australian heavy metal rock band AC/DC demonstrates how our emotions can overwhelm the peace and order we seek in our lives. It is when we run away from how we are feeling that we experience problems. I would like to share with you some learning from a book titled Constructive Wallowing: How to Beat Bad Feelings by Letting Yourself Have Them. The book is written by Tina Gilbertson, who is a psychotherapist and an author. The premise of her book begins like this. When we wallow in our feelings, we equate it with falling into a hole and therefore a bad thing. However, Gilbertson tells us acceptance of feelings is equated with the positivity of self-acceptance. If we feel, we heal. If we allow ourselves to feel, we fall into a hole. Notice, not a hole in the ground, but the wholeness of well-being, of wellness. This seems counterintuitive, beyond logic, because, well, we believe it is a bad idea to wallow in feelings. We think wallowing in feelings makes things worse. We've been taught it's wrong to embrace so-called negative emotions. It seems to us it would lead to poor behavior if we act based on our emotions instead of on reasoned logic. We are afraid we will lose control when wallowing in our emotions. We aren't supposed to acknowledge, let alone feel, so-called bad emotions. We think we will be seen as weak. And frankly, it's just easier to ignore our feelings. Here's what happens when we actually allow our feelings. We gain self-acceptance. We build our self-esteem. We foster greater emotional health and well-being. We have greater capacity for closer relationships. Our confidence increases. Our mental clarity improves. The constant cycle of worry is interrupted. We sleep better. And for many of us, that is a real dream, pun intended. We have more energy. As a result, we gain a greater capacity for relaxation, for play, for joy. I wish to note, however, that what I am talking about is constructive wallowing in our emotions. Here is what usually happens to most of us, which is labeled by psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson as the escalation cycle. When life happens, feelings are triggered. Then we worry we shouldn't be feeling this way, that we need to put on a happy face and just persevere. In response, we stuff our feelings deep inside. Over time, those stuffed feelings pile up. We can either choose to take those stuffed feelings out on ourselves, leading to depression, anxiety, and a loss of vitality. Or on the other hand, we can choose to take those stuffed feelings out on others, leading to inappropriate behavior, further leading to feelings of remorse and a loss of self-respect. We may even find ourselves taking both routes at the same time. Meanwhile, life continues to happen, and we haven't given ourselves the time needed for healing. This is unhealthy and, in fact, unfaithful. However, the constructive wallowing cycle provides us with an alternative approach to our flood of emotions. When life happens, feelings are triggered. Instead of ignoring them and pushing them down, we acknowledge our feelings by experiencing them. Once we fully live those feelings, we make better choices. We find relief and our well-being is improved. Here is a chart outlining a variety of ways people deal with feelings. There are two dimensions. One is outside or public, visible, while the other is inside or private, unseen. In the left-hand column, you see that acting out our feelings can include attacking others verbally or physically, driving too fast, eating or drinking too much, constant complaining. In the middle column on the inside, private level, if we just manage our feelings, we find ourselves rehashing events, obsessing over those events, worrying about the consequences of those events, ignoring or suppressing our feelings like in the escalation cycle, trying to let go of our feelings without experiencing them. In the far right column, should we practice constructive wallowing, we find ourselves having, embracing, claiming, witnessing, accepting, allowing, and tolerating the emotions that we have. We let our feelings live so that they can eventually dissipate and have far less residual effect on us. Notice at the bottom of this chart, if we act out our feelings or manage our feelings, we become mired in anxiety, alienation, emptiness, and depression. Instead, if we constructively wallow in our feelings, we discover self-compassion, self-knowledge, and renewed energy. This leads to wellness. What then is wellness from Tina Gilbertson's clinical experience? Wellness is a choice, a decision you make towards optimal health. Indeed, it is a way of life, a lifestyle we choose to achieve our greatest potential for well-being. It is a process which develops an awareness that there is no end point. Instead, health and happiness are possible in each moment, here and now. Wellness is an efficient channeling of energy received from the environment, transformed within you, and sent on to affect the world outside of yourself. It is the integration of body, mind, and spirit, which involves the appreciation of everything you do, you think, and you feel. After all, what you believe has an impact on our state of health. At its core, wellness is the loving acceptance of ourselves. So begin today with living in the moment, but giving yourself permission to listen and to fully live into your emotions. This may seem like an awful lot of information to process, but it has proven to be a powerful process for my own well-being. During next week's Fireside Chat, I will be providing those of you who watch with a technique for living the emotions you have dwelling within. Meanwhile, let me share with you a prayer that is rooted in our understanding that faith overcomes fear, love overcomes hate, and grace overcomes judgment. As a result, consider this prayer as a space within which God's Spirit reaches out to embrace us all, that quiets our souls and that communes with us through unconditional love. So let us pray. Find a comfortable position for your body. Place your feet flat on the floor, your hands resting on your thighs, your eyes closed. Now breathe deeply in and out. With each breath, breathe out that which burdens you. With each inhalation, breathe in stillness and calm. Now just breathe deeply, slowly, timelessly. Be still. Be still, my soul. Be still, my soul, for just a moment. Be still. Be still and know God is with you. Be still and feel the warm breeze of God's Spirit. Be still and feel God's Spirit breath gently embracing. Be still. Be still and hear. Be still and hear the quiet words of God's Spirit. Be still and feel God's Spirit gently uplifting. Be still. Be still for just a moment. Be still. Be still, my soul. Amen. I'd also like to thank Terry Boyd, who every week faithfully renders the recording of this fireside chat to our YouTube channel. So thank you, Terry, for making this happen. If there are any of you who would like to be mentored by Terry as to how to make that happen for our website as well as for our YouTube channel, give me a shout and at the church, and we'll see what we can set up. I'd like to end this fireside chat with an ancient blessing attributed to St. Patrick in the 13th century. It can be found in our Voices United hymn book on page 319. God be in your head and in your understanding. God be in your eyes and in your looking. God be in your mouth and in your speaking. God be in your heart and in your loving. God be at your end and at your departing. And I would add, God be in your loving of yourself as you constructively wallow in your feelings. I'll see you next week with the practice for that constructive wallowing. Goodbye till next week.